Hello, everyone. On behalf of the Councilors of Real Estate, welcome to this fourth APEC special presentation of Dynamics of the Leading Economies in ASEAN Countries, featuring members and special guests of our Asia Pacific Theory chapter. Thank you for joining us. I am Isobe, CRE, the 2025 APEC chapter chair. The Councilors of Real Estate is distinguished solution-focused consortium of accomplished advisors addressing real estate challenges worldwide. Experienced, innovative, principled, and credentialed problem solvers, counselors reside in 22 countries, practicing many more, and offer expertise in 60 real estate disciplines across all asset classes. Each has earned the prestigious theory designation. Let's recognize the sponsors for the event. Equus Partners, Equus Capital Partners, and the Real Estate Limited Partner Institute. Thank you for your partnership. Before we begin, I would like to offer you a free digital subscription to the Councilor's peer-reviewed professional journal named Real Estate Issues. It has been named one of the top 10 essential real estate publications in the United States. Please visit the website of cre.org/REI to subscribe. In this fourth APEC webinar, we'll turn to Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore to assess the real estate market, legal systems, and economies of these leading countries in ASEAN. Please note that this session has been pre-recorded due to time constraints. Now, let me introduce today's moderator, Ms. Sumi Ku, CRE. Sumi is currently the only one CRE in South Korea and CEO of Sumi Ku Appraisal Office. She is also a vice president of World Association of Valuation Organizations called WAVO. Sumi-san, can you start the session?
Thank you, Hiro, for your warm welcome and inspiring leadership. Hiro has been a driving force behind the success of our Asia Pacific webinars, continuously building bridges among real estate professionals throughout the region. As he introduced, I am Sumi, a CRE based in Seoul, and it's truly my pleasure to serve as the moderator for today's session. Following the success of our third APEC webinar, we are delighted to continue this regional dialogue, connecting property professionals from across Asia Pacific to share insights, challenges, and opportunities in our evolving markets. Today, we have 3 speakers, and as we promised already, I think that I give a presentation opportunity from Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. And when I introduce one speaker to you, please introduce yourself shortly before your presentation. Okay. Then we will begin with Ratchaphum Jongpakee from Thailand.
Okay, today we're gonna talk about Thailand real estate market insights. Actually, Thailand economy is forecast to achieve a modest 2.2% GDP growth in 2025, reaching a nominal GDP of $558 billion US dollars. Actually, this growth is primarily fueled by a strong tourism rebound and robust exports. Next slide gonna be the demographic and physical structurally. Thailand face long-term challenge, rapidly aging societies. On the physical side, government debt at 64.8% of GDP is manageable. However, key industries remain manufacturing, such as autos, electronic, etc., as well as the tourism and agriculture. Talking about the debt and outlooks of Thailand, I think the most immediate concern on domestic consumption is high household debts, currently at 86.8% of GDPs, among the highest in emerging Asia. However, the market upside is driven by continued tourism recoveries and substantial public investment in digital and physical infrastructure as well. Why Thailand? That's a good question. Why is Thailand the gateway to ASEAN? Actually, it's both a strategic location, strong government support via the Board of Investment, or we call BOIs, and established logistics and digital connectivities. Talking about top 5 investment sectors, investment should strategically target the 5 key S-curve sectors promoted by the government's electric vehicles to meet the 30-30 visions, the burgeoning digital economies, and the high-value services like medical tourism. I think the focus is high-tech, clean, and capital-intensive industries. Moving to the slide number 7, it's gonna be the key investment destinations. The primary magnet for foreign direct investment is the Eastern Economic Corridors, or we call EEC, which attracts over 50% of the total FDI values. For real estate, the Bangkok area, particularly the Sukhumvit, CBD zones, and Palm Resort destination like Phuket, Pattaya, Chiang Mai are the high-yield targets. We're going to talk about conclusions and BOI highlights. I think the core incentive of the BOI is a corporate income tax exemption of up to 13 years. Crucially, non-tax incentives include permitting foreign land ownership, specifically for projects receiving BOI promotions, facilitating large-scale development as well. Moving to the slide number 9 to 13, we're going to talk about ownership structure in Thailand. For business ownership, 100% foreign control is possible to BOI promote companies or specific foreign business acts exemptions. Regarding real estate, foreigners can hold 100% freehold condominium titles within the 49% foreign quotas. Anyway, we emphasize that the use of nominee shareholders to circumvent foreign business act is strictly illegal and carry severe penalty as well. Moving to the page number 14 to 15, Thailand 4.0 and EEC flagships. Thailand vision is connectivity for prosperities, underpinned by a 3 trillion baht infrastructure budget. The EEC remain the flagship projects, focusing on transforming 3 provinces into high-tech logistics and industrial hubs, notably by connecting 3 airports via high-speed rails. The 3 airports means that Suvarnabhumi Airport, Utapao Airport, and Dormung Airport as well. Talking about the rail network systems, the national dual tracks rail network is expanding rapidly to lower logistic costs for businesses. Furthermore, the high-speed rail project in the EEC and the Thai Sino Corridor will significantly boost regional trade and tourism flows. We're going to talk about maritime and port. Maritime logistics are being upgraded with the expansion of Ratchaphum Deep Sea Port Phase 3 and the groundbreaking Southern Land Bridge mega project is designed to be a global shortcut by passing the Malacca Strait and positioning Thailand as a world-class supply chain nexus. Talking about the aviation and digitals. In aviation, the expansion of Suvarnabhumi Airport and the upgrade of Utapao Airport as the EEC aviation hub are the criticals. Digitally, the aggressive rollout of the 5G network and the national broadband plan are essential for supporting the next generation of smart manufacturing and smart city initiative within the EEC as well. All going to page number 24. We're going to talk about economic impacts. With these infrastructure investment are set to deliver immense economic impacts. Drastically reduce logistic costs, significant job creations, and surge in FDI toward advanced technology sectors, solidifying Thailand's role as the regional logistics and tech hub as well. Next, we're going to talk about Thailand economic situation, outlook, and key challenges. As I said before, the challenges would be the high household debt that is nearby 90% of GDP's US tariff and aging society as well. Talking about the transaction overview and breakdowns, the overall transaction value is steadily recovering, projected to reach 380 to 410 billion baht in 2025. While residential remains the largest segment, is about 65 to 70%. Industrial and logistics is unequivocally the fastest growing sectors, fueled by the EEC and the e-commerce exports. Talking about Thailand real estate market outlook 2025, luxury and ultra luxury is resilient demands that strong sale rate as well. Condominium projects, we see the oversupply in some locations, especially in outside the Bangkok palm areas. Low-rise housing continue popularity for developers who have their site outside the CBDs. Rental market is supporting by the expat demands. I'll take you to the slide number 41 to skip all things that I have said before. It's gonna be a new era of city makings. Thailand is entering a new era of urban developments characterized by massive integrated mixed-use projects. The core philosophy is hyperconnectivity, experiential retails, and integration of live workspace shop within the single developments. Spotlight projects. Key projects include One Bangkok's Thailand's largest LEED Platinum certified. This is Central Park's a transformation in the super core CBDs. Icon Siam's, the global riverfront destination, So this project signal high confidence in premium demand and Thailand's ability to attract international capitals. So I'm going to talk about the outlook summary for 2026. The market remains a two-speed market. The residential high-end luxury segment show robust growth and resilience, largely driven by foreign capitals. Meanwhile, the mid-lower segment struggle with the high household debts. Industrial and logistics is the perennial bright spot, supported by China Part 1 strategies and a huge demand for advanced data centers. Hospitality continued its strong rebound, backed by rising occupancy and RevPAR as well. So the last but not least, in conclusion, the overall real estate market is forecast to grow at 5.6 through 2030s, with commercial asset projected to lead this growth. Despite domestic challenges, the unwavering drivers of FDI, infrastructure, and tourism continue to position Thailand as the most dynamic and resilient investment destination in Southeast Asia. That's all for today, guys. Thank you for your attention. I'm confident the insight presented today will support your strategy decision in the regions. I'm now ready to answer any question you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ratchaphum. Yes, for that very interesting and comprehensive presentation. Can I give you the Q&A opportunity later after finishing all three the speeches?
Yes, sure, Sumi.
Okay, please. Yeah. Thank you. It was great to hear your perspective on how the Thai market is evolving. Now we know that Thailand's economy is growing moderately, supported by exports, manufacturing, and a strong tourism rebound. The government's Thailand 4.0 policy and the Eastern Economic Corridor were impressive. They are driving investment in infrastructure, high-tech industries, and logistics. That was good. Now, we will turn to our second speaker, Mr. Allan from Malaysia, who will be sharing updates and insights on Malaysia's industrial, logistics, property sectors. Allan, over to you. Please introduce yourself briefly before your presentation.
Thanks, Sumi. And this is Allan Sim. I'm from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Today is my great honor to share about decoding Malaysia real estate landscape under the 4th APEC webinar 2025. Let me start with Malaysia lands, rules, and regulation. Malaysia adopts the Torrent Lands Registration System, which has two notable features. Number one, registration of all major land transactions. That means all significant dealings involving land, such as ownership, transfer of ownership, lease, mortgage, and easement must be registered in a central land register maintained by the land registry or land office. So this register is open for public inspection. Number two, legal effect of registered transactions. So the law grants legal validity to all registered dealings. So the purpose of these two features is to ensure that anyone consulting the register can rely on its integrity. This means that the information recorded in the register represents the true legal status of the land, and any unregistered matters have no legal effect on the land. So the core principles of the Torrent system are the curtain principle and the mirror principle. which together embody the concept of indivisibility of title for the registered landowner. The current system in Malaysia. So for each parcel of land granted by the state. So just for information, Malaysia, you have 13 states. So 2 documents are issued. Number 1, register document of title kept by the land office or the land registry as the office record of land ownership. Number 2, issue document of title, a duplicate copy of the registered document of title issued to the registered landowner as proof of ownership of the land. So, ownership of real property in Malaysia is established through the registration under the National Land Code 1965. All subsequent transactions are recorded under the same title. There are 2 forms of land ownership in Malaysia, being freehold, that means ownership of the land is perpetual and not limited by time, and leasehold ownership is held for a fixed term, most of the time not exceeding 99 years. And if the lease covers only a portion of the land, the term shall not less than 30 years. National Land Code 1965 Malaysia. Under the National Land Code of Malaysia, state land may be alienated under 2 forms of title. Number 1, qualified title. Number 2, final title. Now, registry title, final title, there's 2 types. It's called registry title, which is own or village land, any lot of country land exceeding 4 hectares in area, and any part of the foreshore or seabed. Land office title, any lot of country land not exceeding 4 hectares in area. So this is the sample of qualified title and final title. So if each of the document, you will see each land parcel, you will have your own title number, you have your own lot number, and the land area. Yeah, tenure will be specified. District, quick rent, category of land use, express condition, restriction in interest, and more importantly, registered ownership will be recorded on this paper. And final title is the same from the qualified title. Probably the difference will be they will issue you a new title number and a lot number, final lot number, and the final land area, while the rest should be the same. The next is strata title. So Malaysia, we issue strata title for high rises. Usually, yeah. And in this strata title, you can find all the title number, building floors, parcel number, accessory parcel number, area or size, master title tenure, reserve area if there is, district, parcel share unit, total parcel share, parcel rent, category of land use, ownership and address, and etc. So under the National Land Code, the title system in Malaysia is very clear. So other major property related acts, I think Malaysia is come with so many acts to cover for property related. Number 1, you can see from here, Environment Quality Act 1974, Housing Development Act, Control and Licensing Act 1966, Land Acquisition 1960, Land Conservation Act 1960, Local Government Act 1966, Malay Reserve Amendment, Cap 142, Real Property Gain Tax Act 1976, Stamp Act, State Land Rules, which apply to all the states, Strata Management Act 2013, Strata Title Act 1985, Street Drainage and Building Act 1974, and Town and Country Planning Act 1976. Now, let me quickly go into the market overview. Number 1, Malaysia Economy and Property Market Overview. First half of 2025, economy resilient, projected growth between 4 to 4.8% in 2025. Growth supported by domestic demand, infrastructure projects, and approved investment. So to date, you can see from 2021, slightly after pandemic, till now, 2025, is about almost 200,000 transactions worth about ringgit Malaysia 100 billion taken place. Residential dominates slightly decline in volume and value. Commercial and agriculture small drop in transaction, but interestingly, industrial and development land are having a marginal growth trend. Residential market. High-rise residential market supply remains steady, led by new completion, majority in Mont Kiara and Dutamas. And you can see the cumulative supply for high-rise residential schemes in prime location is keep going up. Yeah, so this is in Klang Valley. We refer to Kuala Lumpur and Selangor. Okay, I go to next slide. Momentum holds into first quarter of 2025 with high-rise residential market post price gain amid volume dip. Yeah. So the next slide, Johor Bahru is an interesting place. I would like to share. Johor Bahru high rises, residential market sees moderation amid increment in supply. Okay, so Johor Bahru is getting supply, and you can see the transaction volume in Johor Bahru surged very interestingly from 2023 to 2024, and 2025 we expect should be having the same kind of increment. Yeah. So next we're talking about Penang. So Penang all the while has been a very popular state, and supply in high-rise residential also moving up. Only thing you see since 2019 until 2024 is on the rising trend. Okay, so the volume 2024 slightly lower than 2023, and 2025 first quarter is lower, slightly lower than first quarter of 2024. The volume has gone up. No, sorry, the value has gone up 24%. The volume has gone down about 21%. Office market quickly. 3 new office completed, adding 1.1 million square feet to existing supply in Klang Valley. So Klang Valley, Kuala Lumpur especially, and you will have and Selangor, you will have very stable supply and has been building up since 2020. And now we are stood at about 122 million square feet. Okay. Klang Valley continue growing performance indicator across localities. So average occupancy rate in Klang Valley is roughly about 75%. Yeah, 75 to 80%. Average rental about ringgit Malaysia, KLCT about almost 7 ringgit per square foot. Yeah, in Selangor almost about 4 ringgit 50 per square foot. Johor Bahru, office market shows stable growth and rising rental rates. I will elaborate more about Johor Bahru later. Yeah, okay. Next is office, recorded slightly improved in occupancy level while rental rates remain steady. Then for Penang, next retail market, quick outlook. Klang Valley holds steady at about 70 million square feet as new wave of experiential malls taking shape. So in Klang Valley, forecast next year, 2026, will be achieving 76 million square feet in total. Occupancy rates continue to strengthen, underscoring retail market resilience. Yeah, okay. So you can see on the right-hand side, occupancy rate of REITs Mall, Suria KLCC is achieving almost 99%. Pavilion about 97%. So practically, shopping mall are doing very well in the KL City Centre. So next Penang, about 20 million square feet up to first quarter of 2025. That is for the shopping complexes. Occupancy rate is about 72%. Industrial market. So rising industrial market performing in first half of 2025, and we can see from here the volume and the transaction are going up since pandemic. And in 2024, already surpassed 2025 about 2 million, 14.4 versus 12.2, and generally value gone down, volume going up. Yeah, first half of 2025 is slightly lower than first half of 2024. Yeah, so that is the industrial Klang Valley. So Johor, you can see the trend is similar, spiking up since 2020, and the value is going up. And we expect 2026, personally, I think it will go even higher in Johor Bahru. Penang, a little bit dip in 2024, yeah. But all the while, Penang has been very stable since 2020 up to 2023. Okay, I think that's it from Malaysia side. Ms. Swee, thank you.
Thank you, Allan, for your detailed and data-rich presentation. It was very interesting to hear how Malaysia's industrial property market is developing. From your presentation, we know that Malaysia's economy remains resilient with growth projected at around 4 to 5% in 2025, supported by strong domestic demand and major infrastructure projects. Malaysia's market fundamentals are solid, supported by clear and land laws, steady reforms, and increasing regional investment confidence. And now, moving on to our final presentation, we will hear from Mr. Yong from Singapore, who will share his views on investment strategies and key market trends in Singapore's real estate sector. Yong, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me at the Councillors of Real Estate seminar. I'm happy to present the Singapore Real Estate update for 2025. Few short notes about me. I've been around in the real estate industry for the last 20 years. Worked in a property developer, worked in a consultancy firm, worked in banks. I've also been busy with research and teaching, as well as publications of some of the real estate related research, especially for Singapore, but also more and more about international markets, especially my own personal interest is in the Japan real estate market. For today, we will take a look at an overview of Singapore, geography, population, the economy, and then I will give you a summary of the total stock and the master plan that has been announced this year, 2025. And then just a slide about the real estate investment trust that could be interesting for foreign investors looking at real estate investments into Singapore. And then finally, I want to share some of my personal concerns about the real estate market in Singapore that I think would need to be addressed very quickly within the next 5 years, so that over the next 20 to 30 years, we would have less challenges to be faced by the market. So, Singapore is a small island in Southeast Asia. We are just south of Malaysia and a little bit north of Indonesia. We are 135 kilometers north of the equator, so the weather is summer all year round. We've got a parliamentary republic that is headed up by a president, and the chief executive of the country is the prime minister. The currency that we have is the Singapore dollar, one US dollar now being about $1.30 Singapore dollar. In 2024, the GDP is 731 billion with a per capita of 121,000 Singapore dollars. This GDP growth is expected to be a little bit more moderate this year with about 2% growth. And looking at the headwinds around the world, the central bank has advised that next year's growth could be between 0 to 2%, would be slightly lower than this year's growth. In terms of the geography, then Singapore, our land size is very small, 736 square kilometers, with a population of 6.11 million. So that brings our population density to one of the highest in the world, top 3 in the world, 8,300 people per square kilometer. We are just less than 2 kilometers to Malaysia, and right now we are connected to Malaysia via 2 bridges. A third bridge, which is for the train, is just completed, but the train will start operating in about a year's time. We are also less than 10 kilometers to the nearest island in Indonesia, which is in Batam, that's down to the south. And in terms of land size growth, we have been growing 2 square kilometers per year for the last 60 years. So there's still some land reclamation going on to help us to increase our land size. The 6.11 million population, when you break it down into Singaporeans, permanent residents, non-residents, you see that actually Singapore citizens take up just 3.5 million, and then the PRs, which are permanent residents, that's another 500,000. So total residents is just 4.2 million out of the total of 6.11 million. So 1.9 million people here are on work pass, student pass, or various other types of passes. So these are a little bit more, I would say, temporary population, because their residency in Singapore depends on their jobs or their activities and their status. Population has been growing despite the fact that we are an aging population as well. So the core population is aging. However, we have got a lot of non-residents that are coming in for work or for studies or related activities. Number of permanent residents has remained stable. And so if you see that the citizens portion is also growing, that's because for people who apply, for the non-residents who apply to be permanent residents, sometimes some of them would get approved. Maybe about 25,000 people might get approved each year. And then of the 500,000 permanent residents, some of them would be applying for citizenship. And for that is around another 25,000 new citizens, or sometimes higher, because some of these permanent residents who apply, their children also get converted to full citizens along with the parents who are the applicants. Going into property ownership, we are very much a country that's still running under the British legal system. And so our government law websites reflected this, that due to the feudal origins of land law that applies to Singapore, which actually a lot of it is carried over from the British colonial days, all land ultimately belongs to the state, and other persons can only own an estate or some lesser interest in the land. So absolute freehold ownership in Singapore is not exactly applicable. We have also adopted the Australian torrent system of land registration, as with other Commonwealth countries. And after our independence in 1965, we introduced the Land Acquisition Act, the Land Title Strata Act. And this Land Acquisition Act actually has helped the government to coordinate a lot of the infrastructure rollout, as well as the building of massive amounts of public housing, which is something that has been quite looked at and emulated by other countries' policy planners. Foreigners may invest in Singapore's properties and own land buildings, except that there are restrictions on foreign ownership for properties that are zoned as residential. So the system of land registration, our titles under the Singapore statutes, and ownership registration under Singapore Land Authority. Those are very open information, and if you were to approach any qualified advisors and real estate experts, you would be able to be pointed to the correct locations for your information and for research. The state owns more than 85% of land, and every year we reclaim 2 square kilometers of land, and therefore every bit of land that is reclaimed, the new land that is added onto the system, belongs to the government. The government does regular land sales in order to supply leasehold land of 99 years for residential and offices, 60, 30 years for industrial land, and sometimes 20 years for more specific land use types to assist certain industries to develop. Shorter leases of state properties are also available. That would be probably a rental rather than a sale and a purchase. Foreign investors are welcome to invest and develop, and financing is available for land and for buildings and construction. It would be a loan that is secured against assets, so it's asset-backed, asset-based financing. Mortgages could also be registered. A quick overview about the total stock and the master plan. This slide that you have just seen actually is the master plan of Singapore with all the various zones, and the different colors reflect the land use type. Industrial in purple, and in the pinkish beige color, that's residential, and then of course there's the nature reserves in green. But in terms of total stock, this chart shows the largest stock of non-residential stock being single-use factory at 284 million square feet. The number in the bracket, 10.9%, refers to the vacancy of that category of properties. And then on moving up in a clockwise manner from the left-hand side, you get the business park category, which is 29 million square feet, out of which 23% is vacant. Warehouse is 131 million, 10% vacant. And then office space is the countrywide office stock is just 88 million square feet, 11.2% of that is vacant. The retail stock is only 69 million, even though Singapore is we are full of shoppers, and then we have got tourists who also come in for the shopping, but the total retail space is just 69 million square feet. 6.9% of that is vacant, and the purple segment on the bottom right is the multiple user factory space, which is 9% vacant with 136 million square feet of stock. So our total industrial stock is 580 million, and on average 10.9% vacant. As for residential numbers, the large green patch that is about 3/4 of all our housing is actually public housing, and that's 1.15 million units of them, and that takes up 72%. So sorry, this the number in the bracket doesn't refer to vacancy, it refers to the percentage of this pie chart. Private housing is about 1/4 of it at 26%, 420,000 units. And executive condominium, which is a category that is between private housing and public housing, that's just 38,000 units. So for a total population of 6.11 million, it might look like sort of a miss because we have only got 1.6 million housing units, housing 6.11 million people. That might look like a ratio of about 4 to 5 people per housing unit, but actually we have not included the fact that many of the foreign workers could be staying in workers' dormitories, service apartments, or student hostels. The population versus dwelling units is a number that I've been tracking for the last 20 years. And I keep seeing that the population growth has been relatively strong. And so I'm tracking also against the number of pieces of residential land being sold, as well as public housing being launched for sale to the younger families that are growing. So these numbers somehow, these in the past few years seems to be a little bit volatile because we were hit by COVID with restricted movements, and so foreign workers couldn't come in. Some of the workers who have left couldn't return. Some of the people who have come in also were not able to get out because of restrictions in their home. So I am hoping that these population numbers would be stabilized now, and moving forward, we should have a little bit more ability to estimate and forecast housing demand. But it looks quite clear to me that based on examples of and data from the Public Housing Development Board, as well as from the urban planning authorities, that we are planning for a future population of about 10 million people, possibly within the next 20 to 30 years. And this year is yet another revision of our master plan. It is still in its draft and consultation version because it hasn't been tabled to Parliament for Parliament to approve yet. And one big focus this year in the master plan is the northern part of Singapore. And as you can see some examples here, our master plan covers in these orange panels, community and housing upgrades. In the purple panels, we cover what industry and transportation connectivity would do, as well as in the green panels, we would be planning for nature reserves and recreation land usage. But the north is a major focus because the Singapore to Johor train bridge has been completed, and trials are now going on running the trains between the two countries, and the signaling system, the train stations themselves are being finalized and under operational trials now. By the end of 2026, in 12 months' time, we expect that this connection to Malaysia would happen. So this would be our third connection to Malaysia. Now, with the differences in real estate prices and in rental rates, with Malaysia on the right-hand side of this photograph versus Singapore on the left-hand side of this photo, I'm wondering how much population shifts, especially of the workers on work passes and employment passes, would they be shifting over to Malaysia, or would this train open up more visitors from Malaysia to come into Singapore and make their family and live and work and study in Singapore? So it would be interesting for us to follow this development. The economics between Singapore and Malaysia could change slightly from the end of next year. Upgrading program for silver estates, that's something that we have been focused on for the last two master plans. We want our estates to be able to, our housing estates to be able to accommodate more and more of the needs of our old people. For foreign investors who are interested to invest in Singapore, we also have a huge market for real estate investment trusts. Right now on the Singapore Stock Exchange, there are 41 of such trusts, and they pay regular dividends. Most of them are paying dividends every 6 months. So with average dividend yield of about just over 6%. This would be an easy way of entering the Singapore's real estate market in order to start understanding what Singapore's real estate market yields as well as rules might be. My concern about this master plan and looking into the next 20 years, especially with the population growth, is the aging population. This chart is our population tree, and it shows that we will, over the next 20 years, have a lot more people in the 65-year age group as people grow older and shift to the right side. The median age of citizens keep increasing. We are now at 43 years old. Our birth rates haven't increased, and the number of citizens between 20 to 64 years of age, the economically active ages, that has been decreasing, while the number of people aged 65 and above keeps on increasing. So with more citizens aged 65 and above, as well as age 85 and above, or 80 in this chart is 80 years old, growing, I'm concerned about the infrastructure for healthcare, for old age living. Would those be sufficient? This chart shows that our total fertility ratio keeps declining, except for last year, which is a dragon year, which seems to be very prosperous, and the Chinese community produced a few more babies. So the number of public healthcare institutions and a few more private healthcare institutions, that the number of beds, as well as the number of physicians, doctors, surgeons, as well as nurses, our number of hospital beds versus some of the OECD countries, I think we still have quite a long way to catch up. So these are, of course, hospital beds for more acute healthcare requirements. But then in terms of retirement homes, old folks' homes, I think we are also a little bit constrained there. So with the population growth forecast, as well as the number of new hospitals being built, I think that there's still quite a lot of space for investments into this area of real estate in Singapore, which is medical and healthcare related investments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yong, for your comprehensive overview of Singapore market. Singapore continues to be a highly planned and tightly managed real estate environment, with the government owning over 85% of the land and expanding its area through 2 square kilometers of reclamation each year. Yeah, it was more interesting for me because while I was participating in PPC Singapore, I visited the URA Center. So I saw the master plan. It was so interesting. And as we all know, the Singapore remains one of Asia's most transparent, stable, and globally connected real estate markets. Okay, thank you very much to all our 3 speakers for your thoughtful and data-driven presentations. Now we will move into our question session. I have 2 common questions for all of you. First, could you share the average cap rates of residential, office, retail, logistics, and hospitality properties in each country? Would you please start with Hyo, if you are ready? Yeah.
Yes, in Singapore, residential cap rates are pretty low. We would be about 2% a year, and that's just a little bit more than the mortgage rate, I think. Right now, the banks are still very much flush with cash, so mortgage rates are at about 1.5% to 2%, but cap rates are usually at 2% or lower. But if you go into the retail, office, and industrial segments, then cap rates may be at about 3 up to 5% level. So once there is a little bit of leverage, you can get a dividend yield of more than 5%, I guess, if you are in the industrial segments.
Okay, Allan, we want your answer.
Okay, thanks, Sumi. I think Malaysia residential between 2 to 3%, and office and retail about 4 to 5.5%, and industrial maybe about 6 to 7%, and hospitality slightly above 7%.
Okay, how about the Ratchaphum?
Yeah, in Thailand, generally vary by the property types and location as well. Broadly speaking, residential and office property in Palm Bangkok area tend to have lower yields, while logistic and hospitality asset offer higher return to reflect their operational risks. For the example, residential allow 3 to 4%, office and retail approximately 5 to 6%, logistic and industrials roughly 6 to 7%, and hospitality 7 to 8%, but varying by brand, occupancy, and location as well.
Okay, second question is a little bit big. How do you expect the proposed Trump tariffs to affect your economy and your real estate market? I give you a first chance to Ratchaphum.
Yes, for sure. Yep. It absolutely impact to the Thai exports, particular steel, aluminiums, others, parts, semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, wood, copper products. Export manufacturers may face higher tariff, reduce their margins, lot of market shares. However, I see that Thailand's strong regional trade integration with ASEAN, China, Japan, that may provide some resilience to the countries.
Okay, how about Allan in Malaysia?
Okay, so Trump has just visited Malaysia 2 weeks ago, as well as Japan and Korea.
Yeah.
I think certainly business got nervous, initially of the year, Q2, when Trump introduced the new tariffs. I think a lot of decision delayed, and I think very similar to Thailand. The impact industrial is about the same. And however, I think we have Malaysia slight little advantage because there's no tariff yet on E&E sector. And I think others than that, people just be very careful at the moment. And I think we will see a more reflection maybe Q1 in 2026.
Okay, we also wonder the Singapore situation, Yong.
I am also wondering about the Singapore situation because while we were all very concerned when this big announcement happened in April, until now, which is 6 months to 7 months later, we haven't really seen a lot of bad news in the trade data or in the real estate data. I think most multinational companies, manufacturing firms, they are, of course, showing a lot of concern. And since April until now, there's been quite a little bit of volatility, the stock markets, the trading, uncertainty about logistics and supply chain. But then when the government announces the quarterly or the monthly manufacturing output and trade data, it looks like when you smooth out the volatility, there is still some growth. So I'm wondering, because obviously our very big neighbor in China has been affected, when will the data actually translate back to Singapore's data? So at this moment, I would say residential real estate is still doing well. Maybe some of the industrial logistics ones might be a little bit more of a wait and see, but overall hasn't affected Singapore much.
Okay, actually, if we have time allowed, I think that we can ask a few questions more. What do you think, Hiro?
Are
Do
you
we still
talking
have
about me?
Yeah. Do we still have time enough to ask a few more questions for each country?
Yes, if you do have, I mean, we do have time,
Okay.
a little bit more. So
Okay.
if you have many questions, why don't you pick up some of them you feel interested in?
Okay. Then I have a deeper question for each country. So I'd like to start with a few questions for Ratchaphum. This is my first question. I heard that several high-rise condominiums and office buildings are under construction in Bangkok were damaged by the Myanmar earthquake in April last year. Were there any changes or updates to the building codes or regulations on earthquake resistance after that incident?
Yeah, actually, Thailand has already updated building regulation, but before last year's Myanmar earthquakes in April. After the Myanmar earthquakes in April last year, there has been increased enforcement and more inspections, but no new law has been issued yet. So a lot of developer has the inspection or their buildings to make sure that the building is still qualities and not big major damage of their buildings.
Okay, I'd like to move on, Allan. And actually, I think I'd better do one question for each speaker to check up how much time we have. Okay, so first, to Allan, you introduced the Street Drainage and Building Act and the Town and Country Planning Act in your presentation. Are there any other laws or regulations that govern land development, green preservation, or environmental management in Malaysia?
Yes, Ms. Sumi, thanks for a question. I think Malaysia now very focused on green development. Yeah. So I think I can think of one is Environment Quality Act 1974, which regulates pollution control and require environmental impact assessment for certain developments. And we also have National Land Code, govern the land ownership, registration and dealings. Local Government Act provides local authority with power related to development control, licensing, and public amenities. And I think National Forestry Act 1984, which support the green space preservation and tree planting, is another important act.
Thank you, Allan. Now I'd like to turn to our final speaker, Yong. And so this is my first question. According to your presentation, the population of Singapore citizens has been increasing. Is this mainly due to a higher birth rate? At the same time, the number of non-residents is also growing. Are they future citizens or mostly temporary workers?
Okay, the whole idea of let's attract multinational companies to create jobs, let's help to grow the economy by creating more jobs. And when you have created the jobs with a small population, you are unable to fill the jobs. So then let's bring in the good, talented workers to support these jobs. And in the meantime, we also built new universities in order to train young people, especially foreign students, who after getting the degree or finish off the polytechnic diplomas, they would be able to join the workforce and work for this multinational. So this equation works as long as we are able to generate the jobs. When you generate the jobs, there will be new talent from overseas who would come in to fill the jobs. Now, in addition to the Trump tariffs, the other big discussion in Singapore is what would AI do in terms of these jobs? Already today, we are having an engagement and a webinar over Zoom. Would many more people still need to come into Singapore for new jobs in future? And therefore, this population growth plan that we have trying to bring our population up to the 10 million target, maybe by the year 2050, we probably have to rethink how we want to grow the population, because AI now is sort of making quite many things uncertain in the jobs area.
Okay, thank you. Can we do the second question round, or shall we wrap up now?
Maybe one more question for each speaker.
Okay. Okay. Actually, I have a lot.
You do?
Yes. Here's the second question for Ratchaphum. I believe that the development, yes, the Chinese and Japanese developers have been very active in new developments in Bangkok. Are there also any Western developers investing in larger scale projects in Thailand? And when international investors participate in Thai property projects, what is the typical legal or investment structure used in such cases?
Yeah, there's a Western developer investing in real estate in Thailand more broadly. There are clear evidence that Western investors are active both in tourist destination real estate areas such as Phuket luxury villas and second homes. But international investors typically invest in Thai property through a Thai majority joint ventures, long-term leasehold, or foreign quota condominium ownerships. Larger commercials and industrial projects may use LEED or BOI approved structures that allow greater foreign ownerships. Direct foreign freehold ownership of land is generally not permitted for Western developers.
Okay, here's the second question for Allan. I believe that the development of Johor Bahru began about 20 years ago, although according to your presentation, the office occupancy rate there appears to be lower than in other areas. Is Johor Bahru now considered one of Malaysia's major economic hubs?
Yeah, I think interestingly, places like Johor Bahru is never been so active and so commercialized for the past 20 years. And many of the businesses, they would like to occupy within the shop office, the low-rise shop office, probably due to a cheaper rental, and probably because the demand for the high-quality office is not there for the past 20 years. But however, if everyone can recall, early of the year, Johor, Singapore government has set up this called Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone, JSXEZ. This is an interesting one. And recently we have seen there's a lot of inquiry and increase in office space in Johor Bahru. And we foresee this trend will continue for the next few years.
Thank you. Here's the second question for Shio. The government has announced plans to increase the total population from around 6 million today to 10 million in the future. How could this be achieved?
Actually, there was no formal announcement by the government. There were just hints, and there were looking at the numbers in the master plan and looking at what the public housing authority, which is the Housing and Development Board. But just by putting some of this information together, you might be able to form the conclusion that the land development plan is designed for a maximum of 10 million people, because we are building new train lines, we are reclaiming more land, we are trying to shift some industrial areas here, move the university there. So based on all these different inputs, that was my conclusion, that they are aiming for the 10 million population. So from that, you have got to really work very hard at creating more jobs. When you create a good job in the finance sector, or you create a good job in innovation, manufacturing, or design, then this good job with the talented person from Korea, from Malaysia coming to, or from Thailand joining us as a designer, this good job will then translate to another 0.1 job for the retail specialist or another 0.2 jobs for the transport person. And if you can create 100,000 good jobs, that 100,000 good jobs leads to the creation of maybe another 30,000 jobs that are supporting this 100,000 new population that are in Singapore. And so with that type of thinking, hopefully also the 100,000 good jobs, they bring in people with family, you bring your spouse over, and then you also bring your children, and then they go to school. And this is the idea that Singapore has for the last 20 to 30 years to grow the population so that we can have a proper consumer market with a real domestic demand. Right now, that consumer market and the domestic demand is still very small, and it is difficult for us to sustain ourselves. So I think look out for the jobs growth, and like what Allan said, the Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone with a lot of tax incentives, that could also be helpful to create new jobs that would be there that would benefit both countries. And then the talents can also, of course, cross over. People in Singapore having a home in Malaysia, Malaysians who are working in Singapore have homes also on both sides of the channel.
Okay, thank you very much to all our speakers, Ratchaphum, Allan, and Yong, for your insightful and thought-provoking presentations and answers. Today's session has given us a broader perspective on how real estate markets across Asia are evolving and responding to new challenges. We've heard valuable perspectives from Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, and together we've given us a clear understanding of how the real estate markets across Asia Pacific are evolving, from industrial growth and infrastructure expansion to democratic changes and sustainability challenges. Before we close today's session, I'd like to invite Isobe-san, again, the leader of the CRE Asia chapter, to share a few closing words. Hiro, please go ahead.
Thank you, Sumi, for the wonderful, excellent moderation for the decision. Because of you, we really could enjoy discussing and talking and chatting during the last 1.5 hours. Thank you very much, Sumi. And thank you for Ratchaphum, Allan, and Yong. I know that you all are quite well-known real estate leaders in your countries, but your presentations were great. Thank you very much. And for the participants, please note that the slide of today's presentation will be uploaded within the APAC chapter's website, within the CRE homepage later on, so that you can download this. Actually, the slide were full of information, so it's worthwhile to make download. Now, I'd like to thank the team that makes this international collaboration possible. Larissa Phillips, Cassandra Culiel, and RJ Series in Chicago, and Mariko Uchiyama in Tokyo. They worked to coordinate time zones, video formats, and questions to put together. And also thank you to the Councillors of Real Estate Foundation, which provided a grant to help with the cost of bringing all of this together. As all the participants have recognized, Asia is one of the growth engines that drives the global economy. According to 2024 IMF statistics, US GDP accounts for 26.3% of the world total, followed by EU with 17.5%, China 16.9%. Now, if we combine ASEAN, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, China, and India, total GDP of these countries accounts for 26.5%, which is slightly larger than the US. In other words, Asia as a whole is the powerful economies group in the world. Asian countries will play an even more important role than ever before. This year, the CRE APAC chapter has hosted and introduced the latest real estate market of major 10 countries in Asia, including Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong and China, Philippines, Cambodia, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, through 4 times of webinar. And I hope this series of webinars have helped you understand what's going on in these countries. The APAC chapter of CRE, although it's still a very small chapter, would like to continue to share more Asian information with you next year. Until then, on behalf of the Council of Real Estate, thank you for attending this session on what's next for real estate and the life experience. Thank you again, and you all have a wonderful holiday season ahead. Thank you very much.